afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar on cybersecurity for the legal sector. My name is Lindsay Petzer and I'm Key Relationship Manager here at Lawyer Checker, and I'm really pleased to be joined today by Sarah Booth from IASME and Duncan Sutcliffe from Sutcliffe Co Insurance. Welcome both.
Hello.
So a couple of bits of housekeeping before we get started. The webinar should last around 30 minutes. In terms of recording, we'll make sure we distribute a copy of the webinar afterwards, just in case you'd like to refer back or maybe a colleague has missed it. On the right-hand side, there's a questions box. If you have any questions, you have the opportunity to put those in there. And if you can include your name as well as the question, we'll come back to you after the webinar is finished. We also have informative handouts that you're able to download throughout the webinar. Please feel free to download as appropriate. So the last year has been tough for firms. The turmoil of the pandemic and the uncertainty of lockdown restrictions have taken centre stage. During this period, many firms have faced another threat, increasingly sophisticated cyber attacks. Between January and May this year, 57% of all SRA alerts issued relate to email fraud or phishing attempts. This is often where sophisticated fraudsters impersonate a real law firm, usually through phishing emails, attempting to divert property transaction funds into their own accounts. The good news is, by taking a proactive approach, there's much you can do and should do to ensure your business doesn't fall prey to cyber criminals. So our first guest is Sarah Booth, Head of Marketing IASME. In April last year, IASME were awarded a 5-year partnership with the National Cybersecurity Centre. They're now the sole governing body of the Cyber Essentials scheme. Today, Sarah's going to be discussing the different options available to your firm and what they involve. As well as talking through Cyber Essentials, Sarah's going to be talking about IASME governance. You may have heard about this before, but given the number of inquiries we're receiving from law firms who are interested to know more about ISO 27001, we thought learning about this light version would be a good topic to cover. Sarah, over to you.
So what is the threat to the legal sector? Looking at the SRA thematic review, 3/4 of legal firms reported that they had been targeted by cyber criminals. And from that review, £4 million of client money stolen from just 23 firms. So why is the legal sector an attractive target? Well, we probably all know, but you hold sensitive data, you handle significant funds, and you enable huge numbers of commercial transactions. And a cyber attack can have a devastating impact on a legal practice. You could suffer a loss of a significant number of billable hours and resources to recover. You will suffer harm to your reputation and your client relationships. And the loss of client money reimbursed by both firms and insurance companies can lead to increased premiums in the future. So how can IASME help? So as Lindsay mentioned previously, we are the Cyber Essentials partner with the NCSC, and we also have our IASME governance certification. Gaining these certifications and implementing the 5 basic controls from Cyber Essentials will mitigate the vast majority of the most common cyber attacks. You can see there's a study that was done by Lancaster University, which you can feel free to read at your leisure. It's quite lengthy, but we can see here the attacks were fully mitigated, nearly 70%, partial mitigation for 30%. But interestingly, looking at the Lancaster University study, if they had managed to patch those partial, the partial will move to a fully mitigated system. So it's quite interesting to look at the fact that if patching had been in place during the study, then well over 90% of the attacks would have been mitigated. We are talking today about Cyber Essentials and IASME governance. So, as mentioned, we are the Cyber Essentials partner for the National Cyber Security Centre, a part of GCHQ, and we own the IASME governance scheme. My slide here says that we certify almost 2,000 companies per month. Actually, it's over 2,000 companies now. So, what is Cyber Essentials? Cyber Essentials is a simple but effective government-backed scheme that helps protect an organisation against a whole range of the most common cyber attacks. Why get certified? Well, other than the fact that we've just looked that you will mitigate the vast majority of cyber attacks by implementing the 5 technical controls, you'll reassure customers that you have these measures in place. You can attract new business. You also get a clear picture of your organisation's cybersecurity level on an annual basis. And finally, Cyber Essentials is required for some government tenders. So a brief look at the Cyber Essentials controls. The controls cover firewall and boundary controls, secure configuration, access controls, malware protection, and updates. These controls are not complicated, and you may well find that you already have a lot of this in place. So for some firms, Cyber Essentials is just the reassurance that you have the basic controls in place. So how does it work? There's a 2-part Cyber Essentials certification process. So the self-assessed, which is the basic level, clients answer a standard questionnaire online using our secure portal, which is then marked by a trained assessor. If the answers meet the required criteria, you're awarded certification. The cost of this is £300 plus VAT. There's also an audited level. So to gain this level of certification, the business completes the questionnaire and it is then audited by a trained assessor. This also involves a vulnerability scan. There is no difference whatsoever in the scope of the 2 assessments. Just one is self-assessed by the business itself and the other is audited. Also worth mentioning that if you're successful with Cyber Essentials certification, it includes some cyber insurance. Duncan may well go on to talk about this a bit more in detail later, but there are certain prerequisites that you need to meet. So IASME governance, how does this fit in? So IASME governance includes the Cyber Essentials certification. So if you achieve IASME governance, you also achieve Cyber Essentials. It was developed initially as an affordable and achievable version for ISO 27001. So it includes the 5 basic controls, but it also includes things like policies and procedures, risk management, staff training, incident management. It helps organisations achieve an excellent level of information security in a cost-effective manner. And it works really well for SMEs who want to demonstrate to clients, partners, and their supply chain that they're managing information and data security. It works in a similar manner to Cyber Essentials. There are 2 levels, self-assessed and audited. For the self-assessed level, organisations are required to answer around 160 short questions about their security. Once the answers are provided, the assessment is marked by one of our certification bodies. And then if a firm passes, you receive a certificate showing compliance to both IASME governance and Cyber Essentials. So the cost of Cyber Essentials self-assessed is £300 plus VAT. The cost of IASME governance self-assessed is £400 plus VAT. Or you can move on to what we tend to call the IASME governance audited or IASME governance gold, which is an audit in a similar way to Cyber Essentials plus. Another useful thing about IASME governance is it also includes the GDPR requirements. So it allows a firm to demonstrate that they have taken into account the requirements of GDPR, and it shows customers that they take the protection of their data seriously. So where to get started? So it's worth, if you're thinking about doing Cyber Essentials, having a quick look at the Cyber Essentials readiness tool. The URL is on the slide. It's completely free. It's an online tool, and it takes you through the 5 controls of Cyber Essentials in a non-technical, non-jargon based guidance. So you go through your answers to multiple choice questions. you get some action points and information. You can read more about what the controls actually mean. And at the end, you have a bespoke action plan that you can use to start getting your organisation ready for Cyber Essentials. You can, of course, also contact one of our certification bodies who are trained to advise and certify against IASME governance and Cyber Essentials. And I'm sure that Laura Checker will go on and talk a bit more about that before we finish. And so in summary, you as the legal sector are at increasing risk from cyber attack. And Cyber Essentials is a simple and low cost but effective certification recommended by government. A few small technical changes to your firm can prevent 80% of cyber attacks. And then moving on, IASME governance includes Cyber Essentials and is an affordable and achievable alternative to ISO 27001. Thank you.
Oh, that's great, Sarah. Thanks very much for that. So next we're going to be hearing from Duncan Sutcliffe. Duncan is fourth generation insurance broker and director of Sutcliffe Co Insurance. He's also a regular speaker and contributor on the subjects of cyber risk. Duncan's going to be discussing the differences between cyber insurance and cyber crime insurance through to the hardening market for professional indemnity insurance. Duncan, over to you.
Hello, I'm going to talk to you about cyber insurance and insurance in general as it relates to cybersecurity. And being an insurance broker, we often see things at the worst time when things go wrong. If you think about your firm, you will have plans, policies, procedures, and so forth in place to reduce risk. And you will also have physical security, fire alarms, smoke detectors, and so forth in place, again, to prevent risk. And these are all there to make your firm better and safer and more resilient. But despite all this, you'll also have an insurance policy. And you hope that you'll never need it, and you hope that it's a waste of money, but you still go to all the measures to prevent, and then you have the insurance there as cure. Now, all these traditional measures that have been in place, we now have the risks of cybercrime, data loss, and so forth. And these figures show that actually, where we've been concerned about traditional old-fashioned risk to business, cyber and data risks are now the big threats to most firms. And we're seeing a huge rise in things like ransomware, which often involve social profiling and phishing to trick your users into allowing the criminals access to your business or your data or your client's data. And it could be simple things as well, leaving a device on the bus or sending a confidential email to the wrong person or your entire address book. We've seen them all. And a more worrying rise is we're seeing actual employees bribed to share confidential data or allow criminals access into systems. And these bribes can be eye-wateringly expensive or disappointingly cheap. So this is where insurance comes in. Now, you all have professional indemnity insurance in the legal sector. And if you look at the third-party cover that's provided there, it's really designed to cover you for losses that your clients or third parties experience and covering the costs associated with third-party losses. And I'm sure most of your firm's insurance premiums have gone through the roof in recent years, and this is largely due to increased claims. And cyber claims and data claims have been a big proportion of those. So what a lot of businesses are doing, they're also looking at cyber insurance in addition to their professional indemnity insurance. And the cyber insurance will give you a lot of the first party coverages, so covering your losses in relation to cyber and data breaches. Now, how does a cyber policy work? Well, in the event of a claim, the first thing that will happen is you'll get an IT specialist come in and they will forensically examine the system, find what the source of the problem is, and try and stop that problem and restore your systems and data. You'll also get legal support, and they will help you with the response. It could be litigation, it could be regulation, and your firm may have their own internal data and cyber legal experts, but they're too busy earning fees to be pulled aside to look after your own legal crisis. And on the subject of crisis, you'll also get crisis management and PR support. So you're getting real hands-on support in the event of a claim, and your professional indemnity insurance will respond to third-party claims, but your own first-party losses, this is where the cyber insurance really comes in and provides support on a first and third-party basis. And they can cover business interruption losses, ransoms, stolen money, and litigation. And they can also cover fines and penalties. Now, something just to be aware of here is that a big threat that the legal profession has faced in recent years is money that is diverted through things like invoice fraud, fraudulent bank transfers. Many cyber policies will not cover that unless you actually have what is known as a crime extension. Now, that is confusing speak, but every profession has its own jargon, and when insurers talk about cyber crime, they're talking about the actual theft of money rather than things like hacking and ransoms. Cyber insurance can help you with GDPR as well. As you will know, that if you have a data incident, it's mandatory to report it, and your insurer will assist you with the whole reporting process. They can also cover the costs and logistics of notification to all your data subjects that may have been impacted. And the policy can help you with the whole litigation, fines and penalties that surround GDPR. And the Information Commission has said that they will look kindly upon organisations that deal effectively with data breaches and respond with transparency and speed. And your insurance policy will assist you with that. And interestingly enough, the Information Commissioner also said that they will look favourably on firms that have Cyber Essentials certification, because it shows that they are making good effort to reduce the risk to their business. But prevention is better than cure. So it's all well and good having insurance, but hopefully your insurance will be a waste of money. So we talked about all those preventative measures that you will put in place. Assurance and insurance go hand in hand. So what insurance companies like is they like to see good levels of assurance. So if you have things like Cyber Essentials, your insurance company will look favorably upon you. And now that's not just with your cyber insurance, this is also your professional indemnity insurance. Professional indemnity insurers are getting very wary of having to deal with so many cyber and data claims. If they know that you have Cyber Essentials, they'll be reassured by the facts that a breach is far less likely, and if a breach does happen, it'll be far less serious. So if you can say on your proposal form that you have Cyber Essentials, your professional indemnity insurer will look favourably upon you. Also, many insurers are asking you to fill out long forms in relation to your cybersecurity these days. If you tell them that you have Cyber Essentials, that can remove the requirement to fill out one of these long, arduous forms. And it's not just Cyber Essentials. We talked about IASME governance. There's other things that you can look at, ISO 27001, NIST, pen testing, and so forth. There's various other cybersecurity measures your firm can take that will impress your insurer. And it might not just reduce the premium from the insurer, it might actually enable you to get a quote, because many firms are struggling to get quotes full stop. So showing that you have a good level of cyber hygiene is not just about saving money, it's also about getting you quotes altogether. And I would put a big emphasis on staff training. Again, many professional indemnity and cyber insurers are asking, are you training your staff? And the reason they ask this is staff are the weak link. The criminals know that humans are fallible, and you could have all the technical controls in place in the world, but if one of your employees makes a mistake, then that is the way that the criminals get access to the data. So if you can demonstrate to your insurer that you have staff training, it will be looked upon extremely favorably. And it should be something that should be done anyway. And also, many insurers are asking, do you have disaster recovery and business continuity plans in place? And this is not just about in the event of a fire or a flood. This is in the event of a cyber or data breach, because the insurer knows that if you have a good recovery or continuity plan in place and that it is practiced and reviewed, if you are unlucky enough to have an incident, then the recovery will be far quicker, far less painful than if you didn't have one. So these are all things that I would urge you to look at to impress your cyber insurer, your professional indemnity insurer. But even if you're not thinking about your insurance, these are things that I would heartily recommend to every firm to reduce the risk to their business and the risk to their clients. Any questions?
That's great. Thanks very much, Duncan. I have a couple of questions for you. So let's start with Sarah. At present, there are 2 levels of certification. So you have Cyber Essentials, which is a self-assessment, and Cyber Essentials Plus, which includes a vulnerability scan. Are there any plans to change the certification structure in the near future, or is there anything that you can maybe add in relation to certifications? Anything on the horizon?
The scheme is continuously evolving to meet the current cyber threat, and it's always being looked at, and the controls are regularly updated.
Okay, and another question for you, Sarah. The NCSC identified the legal sector as one at significant risk of cybercrime in 2018. Do you think that this still remains the case?
Yes, I do. I definitely do. I can't speak on behalf of NCSC, but I know that they have put out reports where they're concerned about the increasing number of ransomware attacks in the sector, and it's definitely still seen as a high-risk sector, yes.
Okay, so Duncan, I have a question for you. How much has changed over the last few years around what firms are asked to show about cyber and security on their PI renewal forms?
Yeah, a lot has changed. The professional indemnity market at the moment is extremely torrid. We call it a hard market, but it's worse than that. And I really sympathise for law firms who are trying to purchase their professional indemnity insurance at the moment. I will be upfront. We do not deal with solicitors' professional indemnity insurance. So what I'm going to say is not a sales pitch. It's been really tough. A lot of law firms have seen a lot of claims, and a lot of insurers have pulled out of the market and are no longer offering insurance, or if they are offering insurance, it's excruciating premiums with lots of small print and terms and conditions. And law firms are having to jump through a lot of very expensive hoops to get quotes. And a lot of this is due to the increase in cybercrime and data losses and legislation and litigation and regulation that's alongside it. So insurers are now asking so many more questions about this area because it's an area that really concerns them. And we are now seeing on proposal forms, do you have cyber essentials? Do you have IASME governance? And they are asking these questions because the facts are there, proven in black and white, that if you have things like cyber essentials, the chance of getting a claim are significantly less. And insurers, they want that. You know, they want you to have a front door on your house. They want you to have cyber essentials for your data. And so they are asking a lot of questions about what assurance you have before they will give you insurance. And as I said previously, they're also asking about training, disaster recovery, business continuity, all in line with cyber. And a lot of these will come as part of the IASME governance certification.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Duncan. And following on from Sarah and Duncan, I'd like to mention that there are a number of free exercises your firm can complete to assess your readiness in the case of a cyber attack. Our free cyber health check information is available to download now and includes all of the relevant click-through links to complete these NCSC recommended exercises. And just as a personal note on our side, so here at Lawyer Checker, we have certified hundreds of firms to support them in becoming certified for Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus. If you are considering the certifications or wish to talk more about IASME governance, then please feel free to contact our cyber specialist, Mark, whose details will be available on the final slide. I want to thank both of our guests today for their time. I found it really informative and I hope you have too. Just to remind you to please download the content that we have provided if you feel that it will be of benefit to your business. And if you do have any further questions or would like to reach out to any of the key contacts, then here's their details. Thank you very much for your time, everybody. Take care and stay safe. Bye.